Hey, good evening, man. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Hey, I just want to say thank everybody for your continued support. And, the thing is, we're back in the building. We're back in the building. So I'm grateful to be back in the building, grateful to have another opportunity to share and talk with you guys and another opportunity to be on. So welcome. I just want to welcome you guys back to the conversation 9-8. And I appreciate the support. But I also I'm grateful to, have another opportunity to be on, and I don't take it for granted. We're on episode 71. So we've been going strong, and I just don't take that lightly, and I appreciate that more than you know. So thank you guys so much for everything that you do. Thank you guys for tuning in. And I'm excited. It's cold up here where I'm at. So if y'all want some of this, you can get it. I know some snow coming up. They're hitting the East Coast coming up. So we preparing to get some lake effect snow here. But, that's just something that I'm starting to get accustomed to. But again, man, thank everybody for tuning in. I just really the opportunity to just come every week. And the goal is to be consistent. And the goal is to provide an opportunity or provide a platform to just talk and have certain conversation, great conversation. And the night conversation, I think it's going to be a good one. And again, like I've always do, I'm going to share this a while. Make sure you share this. Let people know that you're in the building. Let me watching. If you would like, let me know where you're tuning in from, where you're watching from, because it makes a difference. But as I share this, like I do every week, I do want to draw your attention to. I'm currently now. I'm expanding out. The conversation is expanding out to YouTube. So we're posting on YouTube. Also have a TikTok page and an Instagram page. So that's what we got going. Trying to expand the brand. If they say expand the brand in 2022. And, that's what we do. I'm going to share this a few more times, and then we're going to jump right into it. We're going to jump right into this conversation. Got it. Got that share. Until you share this, let people know where you at. Hey, Miss Paige Banks, how you doing? She got good evening. She tuning in from Greensboro, Alabama, and, she got the War Eagle. I'm going to let it for itself. Roll Tide. I was just in thought this week, just leading up to what to talk about again, just being meditation, being thought, and just thinking about, what is something. Well, I would just say this is my process. My process is to, when I try to think of something to talk about, I want to talk about a topic that's relevant, that has some substance to it. Not only has some substance to it, but a topic that I think that would be helpful to people as we dissect it. And it's not from a position of a know-it-all position at all. That's definitely not it. But a lot of times it's from an introspective and a position that as I look internally, I think that it's necessary to have the dialogue and the conversation about certain topics, because I feel a lot of us go through these things and we suffer in silence. You don't really have to, be open and honest about a lot of things. And that's why this topic tonight is something that is very, I think, very near and dear to me, because it's talking about accepting the reality that you can be functional and dysfunctional at the same time. And I say that one more time. That's accepting the reality that you can be functional and dysfunctional at the same time. And I look at that, and I was thinking about that topic, and I had a conversation with my mom earlier, and y'all see that thing, me and my mom, we talk all the time. But I was talking to my brother. We was all on the phone, and my brother Obi, shout out to my brother Obi. We was just talking, and one of the things that popped up is like, we can be good in some areas and struggle in other areas all at the same time. And that's a reality. That's the of being human. That doesn't mean that we don't strive to be better. That don't mean that we don't put in the work to be better at all. That does not mean that. What it can mean is we can look introspective, accept the reality that, hey, I'm improving, or I have improved, or I have made some adjustments over here, but there's still ways that I have to go. And I just like to look at it and use the analogy, this analogy. This is the analogy that I like to use to look at that from is, if you have to go 10 miles, and I start at 10, you can be going and you can go halfway. Say you at the 5 mile mark. You look from where you started and you can see, man, I made progress. When you look back, you can see where you made progress. But also you see the reality that you still have the same distance to go forward. And a lot of times in our lives, I like to just use that as an analogy to see about being functional and dysfunctional at the same time. And that is so prevalent because a lot of us wrestle with that. And I feel we beat ourselves up. We beat ourselves up for that reality. And it should be more so of a balance of not beating yourself up, but also not being satisfied. It should be a more so of a balance of understanding where you're at and understanding that there's more work that needs to be done, or there's areas where you can improve on. See, I can be satisfied with a lot of my efforts. I can be I can be proud of some of my achievements, but also see areas where I need to improve on. I can be proud of some of my achievements, but also see areas where I can improve on. At the same time, hey, Mom, how you doing? My mom said, good evening. My big brother, what's going on, Obi? How you doing? And Miss Valeda Page Banks, there she go, War Eagle. I tell you, boy, I'm gonna let y'all have that one. But again, I like to say this: you can be proud of your accomplishments, but also recognize areas where you have to improve at the same time. And that is so valuable. And that is a real good place to get to, instead of we being like, hey, I'm proud of what I accomplished, but I'm still mad that I have to improve. And I think a lot of times we get stuck there because we're like, why in the world am I not better? Why in the world have I not gotten? Why in the world have things haven't changed for me? And we look at all the stuff that we have to do, or all the stuff that we need to improve on, and we can be down on ourselves. And we wondering, why am I still dealing with these things? Why these things bother me? Why these things impacted me? And we can get to all of those whys, and we can stay stuck in that point, and we really don't get a chance to really live life. I know you don't get the chance to really live life because you're stuck in that place. And because you feel like you can't be one without the other. Now, that's something I'm not talking about this is something that you just go and you should just automatically not try to better yourself, be a better person in certain areas. But it is a reality. It is a reality that in some areas in our lives, we can be functional and dysfunctional at the same time. Some areas in our lives, we can be disciplined, come very easy for us. But then in our lives that can impact us in a negative way, that's right there. And I'm gonna use one example. We got, hey, how you doing, Miss Margaret Fikes? And Miss Page Bank, I see the team balling, Auburn team balling. But I'm gonna let that go. I'll talk about that later. But Auburn team, they balling right now. So, but this is what I really want to talk about with that. Like, you can be a hard worker and get up, and you can be somebody that know how to go out there and make money. You can go out there and make money. You always find jobs, you always money, and and you're very good. You're very good. You can be an entrepreneur, you can be an employee. You have that go get it about you. You out there, you going to get. You're very functional in that area of making money, or creating money, or having cash flow come. But at the same time, you can be dysfunctional with how you manage that money. You can be a spender. You can not be a saver. You can be somebody that make bad financial decisions. And you're the same person. With one, you're exceptional at one and dysfunctional at the other. in the same capacity, and they affect each other. And those are some of the things where once you accept the reality that, dang, I can be and this, what it does is helps you get to the point to where you start to be able to deal with that and address those things that are causing the dysfunction in other places. You can be an exceptional provider. You can be an exceptional provider, but not be a good husband. Yeah, I want y'all understand what I mean by that? Like, you can be an exceptional mom and not be a good wife. You can be an exceptional mother and be you can be a fully functional, well-oiled, successful mother and be a dysfunctional wife. The same thing, you can be a fully functional, successful father and be a dysfunctional husband. All because there are areas where that even though you can look at it as coming from the same person, but in those different areas we have issues, or we have issues, and we have inconsistencies that causes us to operate in dysfunctions in certain areas, where in those other areas we have consistencies and we have habitual habits that allows us to be functional in those other areas. And what I mean accepting the reality is, a lot of times what we like to do is we like to lean on the things that we're good with that come natural for us and not deal with or not face those other areas where we have shortfalls in. And that perpetuates the dysfunction. That perpetuates the dysfunction. It does. It perpetuates the dysfunction because there's no effort. There's not a willingness to, first of all, address it, acknowledge it, and then put the work in to address. First of all, acknowledge it, address it, and then put the work in to make it better. To put the work in to make it better. And that's a natural thing. Naturally, nobody really naturally likes to get up and just deal with their shortfalls. That doesn't come easy. That comes from a lifestyle or that comes over time and being in environments that facilitate that. Facilitate you working to identify your weaknesses. Think about it. If I ask you right now, if you ask the average person right now, hey man, what's some of your strengths? Tell me about your strength. People tell you, hey, I can do this, that, and the third, blase, and they go down a laundry list. They have an exhaustive list that tells you everything about what they can do good. But then you ask them, hey, what are your weaknesses? They'll tell you a few things, but you will find very few that tell you the truth about who they are. Because a lot of the times it's hard to have a sense of self-worth because we don't want to be honest with ourselves. And that leads us to running from being able, the reality of who we are, and not addressing those areas in our lives where we're dysfunctional. What's going on, Portia? How you doing? And I just wanted to just really say that Mama said that's being grown enough to be whole. But see, Mama, when we talk about whole, first of all, in order to be whole, you have to be able to acknowledge the fullness of you, not just the certain part. And I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm glad that you brought that being whole up. And like you said, I've been talking about being whole for a long time. And over the last year and a half, God has really been dealing with me on the topic of being whole, because it's really come down to an acceptance of your reality, and you're making the conscious and logical decision that you are ready to face it and put the work in to overcome that. And that's what really that decision of coming down to be made whole. And because when you get to a mental place that you're ready to face it, it eliminates all of the external variables. It eliminates all the external variables that influence you not wanting to face those areas of dysfunction. And we're going to break this thing down in a little bit and go a little bit deeper. I'm just staying on the surface right now, but we're going to break this thing down in just a second. Got my classmate, what's going on? I said, I call it finding your center line to accept yourself. Right. The center line, in order, watch this, and I'm glad you brought that up, 9-8. In order to accept the center line, you first have to center yourself. And centering yourself is finding balance. And that balance is recognizing where your left and your right limits at and working towards the middle. And when you're in the middle of something, you can see both sides a whole lot clearer. If I'm more to the right, then I can see more on the right, and the left is a little bit further away. If I'm more to the left, I can see more to the right, and the right is further away. But if I'm working towards that centerpiece, once I get to that centerpiece, I can see the good and the bad on both sides. And it's close to me. What I mean by close to me, that means that I'm in close proximity to both good and bad. So in order for me to do it now, and I'm talking about this is, I don't want everybody to look at it. I'm talking about from a mental perspective. From a mental space. Like I said, you can be good and bad at the same time. And I'm going back to the analogy that I used earlier about a husband and a wife. You can be an excellent provider. And then you can be a terrible, you can be an excellent provider, and you can be a terrible father. You can be an excellent nurturer, and you can be a terrible mother. And a lot of external things influence that. That may come because you probably didn't have a good example growing up. You probably had an example of that's all you do. You just work and you pay the bills. You never was taught that your family need more from you. They need you to be there with them. They need you to have conversations with them. They need you to let them know the truth about, the realities of life. You probably was a mother and you was just taught that, hey, you can be there and you can love on them, but you're a terrible mother or you're a terrible wife. Because, you're just saying, okay, I'm present, but what else do you do? What else do you do as far as with encouragement, as far as with being a help meet? Now, I'm not talking about financially. Help meet, you guys working together, building things together. And the same thing with a dude being a husband. You can be a great provider and a terrible husband because you don't understand the fullness of what it means to be a husband, embody it. But you won't deal with it and get to the center line like my classmate said earlier. You don't want to work towards the center line because getting towards the center line is going to make you have to face the reality of the pains of or those external variables. And I ain't going to say the pains. I say face the realities of those external variables. And we got to get to that point to where we're willing to deal with that, because when we're not willing to deal with those things, we just operate and we'll find ourselves operating for a long time. We operate for a long time. Miss Paige Banks, she said, how can we balance it out to be good at both? So I would just say this, there's no magic one answer for that, but the balance it out for working towards being good at both, and that aspect of, I'll just say, I'm using the analogy of a husband and a wife, both sides, is we first have to get to a place where we not only acknowledge that I may be a great provider, but I'm a terrible husband. We got to be able to get to that space first, that acknowledgement space, because the acknowledgement space is a space where we deal with the realities of us. We acknowledge, we see it, and we accept it, the reality of who we are. See, and that goes to, we know, we are aware of our behavior. We can sit there and try. We're aware of our behavior. A lot of the behavior it's a lot of our behaviors that aren't good are tolerated because people have become, I ain't gonna say comfortable, but they have become familiar with the antics, your antics. So a lot of the behaviors are tolerated. But then now the other side is, a lot of our behaviors, we don't even realize what we're doing. And this is where we know we're not willing to accept it. When we always put the blame on somebody else, this is how I know, this is a sign where you're not accepting it. These are signs that that you are not accepting the reality of you. You always have the tendency to put the blame on somebody else for your current condition. You don't take it up. You don't own it. You don't take ownership of it. It's easy for you to blame somebody else for why you're in the state that you're in. It's easy for you to blame somebody else for why things happen to you. That's where you know where you're at, where you're not willing to come towards that center or to acknowledge it, the reality of who you are. You know it, but you just blame somebody else. And I made this. I posted this the other day, and I'm finding it so I can say. I said this. I said, stop expecting others to feel sorry for you before you start making better choices for yourself. And Ms. Paige Bank, when you talking about finding that balance, you got to stop. You got to deal, like you got to come to the moment of yourself to say, you know what? I'm not blaming anybody. I'm taking ownership of the whole reality of me. It doesn't matter about what happened outside. I'm taking responsibility for it. Because even if somebody else did something to you and that may have influenced you to make certain decisions or be a certain way, the reality is the finite or the finite nature of your choices to choose to do something is your decision. Is your decision. And those consequences will be yours. And we got to get to that place where we are willing to take it up. And I use this over and over, but I want to bring it up again about the man that was at the well, the pool of Bethesda. The man that was at the pool of Bethesda speaking in the Bible, that the Bible said he was there for 38 years. He was at the right place at the right time with the wrong mentality for 38 years. For 38 years, he was expecting, like I said before, stop expecting others to feel sorry for you. And before you start making better choices for yourself, he was expecting somebody else when the angel of the Lord came down and stirred the pool. He was expecting somebody to help him, put him in that pool. Now, help is good. I'm not talking about help ain't good. I'm not talking about, now please don't get this wrong. I'm not talking about help is not good. I am not talking about that there's not a need for people to help us. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm speaking towards more so is a mindset of the expectation that the efforts is on somebody else to help us to do something. The initiation has to start within. She said, acknowledge, accept, then take actions to make better. Hey, how you doing, Miss Belinda Smith? That is true. And that's what I'm talking about. That's getting to that space, that mental space. But that's not just an easy place to get to. It's not an easy place to get to. That's why I said in the title, accepting the reality. It is a reality. Don't just try to lean towards what you're comfortable with in the aspect of what you may be good at. Hey, acknowledge that, hey, look, I ain't right now, I'm not a good mother. And then stop getting defensive if somebody telling you the truth behind the facts and the truth behind your actions. I'm not a good mother. I'm not a good father. I'm not a good husband. I'm not a good wife. I'm not a good employee. I'm not a good employer. I'm not. Stop blowing it off. Stop getting in your ego. Stop getting in all these spaces when people are telling you the truth. And once you see it, you see it. You know it. You know it. But because of your ego, because of pride, you don't want to get to the center to face that reality of who you are or what's going on with you. And that's what we got to really, like, that's what I'm talking about. That's not an easy thing. But watch this. How many times you've heard people really talk about this? Like, talk about this. Really talk about this dynamic that I can guarantee you, everybody who may ever watch this, you can relate to some of these struggles and these realities that I'm talking about. Ms. Page said, wow, it sounds so unreal, but we all are dysfunctional to a certain extent. Yes, until we face the music of our dysfunctional self. Yes, that is not saying that you are settling to be dysfunctional. That's accepting the reality that first, you are human. Second, we all have areas that we can improve on. Areas that we can improve on. And And I look at it like this, and it's a fine balance. It's a fine balance. You know, we have some people that just high achievers, and I've been a part of the organization now for almost 22 years in the military. You know, we have some high standards. We have some standards on our behavior, standards on our conduct. We have certain, standards that we have to meet all the time to be eligible to stay in, to continue to serve. And I get that. I'm not dismissing that. But also we have minimum standards and we have maximum standards. And a lot of people will there are some people that will commit a large amount of energy just to meet the minimum standard. That's where it is. And then you have some people, they commit a large amount of energy to exceed the standard. But the reality is this. There's some areas where you're naturally going to exceed the standard because it just may be a natural ability. But there's other areas where you may have to work to even just meet the standard. And how much are you committed to be more well-rounded or well-balanced instead of just highlighting those things that you're good at and putting the work in those other things, those other areas where we need areas to improve on? And that boils down to you whatever type of person that you want to be. Me, I just made a commitment to just, you know what, I want to be better. And a lot of times being better is just making a commitment to do the work. We know what we need to work on. Just don't want to do it. We know we need to work out, just don't like getting up. We know we need to eat better. We just don't want to. I just like the food I eat. Oh, I can't, man, I can't change. I don't like that food. Don't be tasting good. And you basically killing yourself all because you don't want to. But then when you have health conditions because of that, your expectation is for other people around you to feel sorry for you or to compensate for the fact that you're continuing to make those choices. And Ms. Paige Banks, you said earlier about, that we all are dysfunctional in areas in our lives. That's a reality. That's not a flaw. That's just a reality. The question is, are you willing to face it? Are you willing to say, you know what, I need to do something different? Are you willing to put that work in so that you can get better in that area? And that's what it really boils down to. And this thing, as more and more as I continue to discuss and talk about this topic and dig deep into this topic about being made whole, the more I realize it really boils down to our minds, what's going on in our mind. Ms. Paige Banks said, I always thought I was a great mother. However, when I look back as to when my children was young, I see a lot of improvements I could have made. Now I try to pass the improvements on to my grandchildren. Now watch this, Ms. Paige Banks. I'm glad you said that. I am so glad that you said that. Because hindsight is 20/20. But in that moment, as a mother, you gave the best that you could and what you knew to do at that time. And I can speak that from somebody just being down there and seeing you. Ms. Paige, you put a lot of effort towards making sure your kids was good. And I salute you. And like my mom said, I consider you to be a great mother. But you know that when you look back, you're like, man, I could have did this better. I could have did that. I could have did this. And that don't mean that you're dysfunctional. That means that we're growing in areas. And that means that's a reality of life. Like I told my mom the other day, I said, Mom, even in all of your perfections, you was a perfect mother for me. I know my mama didn't make all the right decisions. I know my mom is not perfect, but she was perfect for me because guess what? She was consistent. Her efforts I never had to question what her heart was towards me or either of my siblings. I never had to question it. And my mom had made some very hard decisions out of love on behalf of her kids. Yes, it may have impacted us differently. But I know that the consistency was there. And that's a reality that, that's what I'm talking about, accepting that reality. And a lot of our dysfunction is just we don't want to make better choices. That's really what it is if you really think about it. A lot of our quote unquote dysfunction is rooted out of we expecting other people to compromise for us to do the things we want to do, but we don't want to deal with the consequences for the choices we make. Period. And that's why, that's a reality where we got to start being so goddamn sensitive. So sensitive about things. And in our sensitivity on things, we expect other people to compromise or feel sorry for us, when the reality is we got to start and deal with ourselves. My mama said, I don't want to get up and exercise. If you don't want to get up and exercise, don't complain that you know what I'm saying? Don't say that you want this, or don't talk about the things that you say that you want if you're not willing to do it. If you aren't willing to put the work in, stop expecting the results to come from there. And my mama, here she go with that craziness. She said, and again, and Robert, we're going on a vegan diet. So, Ma, I don't know who Weir is, but you can go on a vegan diet. That's just not my choice. That's something that I don't want to do. And that's my choice. That don't make me dysfunctional, but that's just something that I don't want to do. And yeah, I'm just let you have that. I'm gonna let you and Peanut go on our dog Peanut go on a vegan diet and see how that works. But realistically, we beat ourselves up so much. But the reality is we know what we need to improve on. We know those areas where we need to improve on. And Darius said this. He said, don't get mad at the results you didn't get because the work you didn't put in. And that's really where it comes down to. And when we see areas where we need to, like, if you're doing something, and what I mean by dysfunctional, I mean counterproductive. I'm not talking about you're putting that work in, you're trying, and you're making adjustments, learning from your efforts. And I just want to bring this up too, right? I think it would be hard to realize that I'm an Alabama fan, and I know that's hard. I know that's hard for a lot of you guys to believe, and those who have really met me before. I know it's hard for you to believe that I'm an Alabama fan. I love Alabama, and I rarely say Roll Tide. I know that's hard for y'all to believe, but one of the things that I do like about Nick Saban is the thing that has allowed Alabama to be at the peak of college football for the last 15 years is his willingness to be right there in the middle, in the center line, and face the realities of who he is and put the work in and address it to get better. And I can remember in 2015, when Ohio State beat us in the Sugar Bowl, and they went on to win the national championship. Their offensive coordinator at the time was a guy named Tom Herman. Tom Herman ended up being hired as the Houston Cougars head football coach that summer. Coach Saban and Coach Kirby Smart, who just won, shout out to Georgia winning that championship, who was the defensive coordinator at the time. They had Tom Herman come in and explain to them how he exploited their defense how he attacked their defense during the Sugar Bowl, so that he can learn from the same guy that just was part of the team that beat him, so they can go back and make adjustments themselves. That mindset right there, and I don't know if Ms. Paige Banks still on, but that mindset right there is, if I'm not afraid to face the reality of me, because my desire is to be a better version of me. So tell me the truth about me. How did you exploit me? How did you beat me? And a lot of times we don't have to have those conversations with people. If we sit down and we assess certain situations, we'll see how we were vulnerable. We'll see how we put ourselves out there. We will see all of these areas where we can improve on. The question boils down to, are you willing to do the work to make the changes? And everybody calls, you know, evolution and all this. And you can be stuck in your ways and you can be successful in what you did do. And I like that. I'm finna go down this road. I'm finna really, really go down this road. Really go down this road. Now watch this. You can be successful, extremely successful, doing something consistently and good for a period of time. But your unwillingness to make adjustments and improve will lead you down a path where your success will become an afterthought because you are unwilling to change. For example, Blockbuster was very successful with their business plan, but they refused to change and adapt to the changing times. And Netflix came in and they didn't want to adapt to it. So now look at Blockbuster. You don't see no Blockbuster stores open, but everybody, I can guarantee you right now, everybody got access to Netflix because they didn't want to change. They didn't want to adjust to the time. We have to be able to adjust to the time and change our mindset. And that's something that we really have to do. Demetrius said, in a leadership role, we know how to approach and deliver constructive criticism or improvement methods. But a lot of times people bash, which will make a person build a wall immediately. Yeah, a lot of times people will bash and people will build a wall. Now, the reality is this, and I'm talking about you dealing with yourself. Why are you putting up a defensive wall when you know where you need to work it? And yeah, I get it, man. I'm all about how you do things. Now, I will say this, there's a balance. I'm responsible with my methodology and my intent behind how I bring something, how I say something. I'm not responsible for how you take what I say. And what I mean by that is I'm not just saying, oh, I'm just going to just say whatever I want to say. No. If I come to you and I come to you with from a genuine place, from an authentic place, and I say, hey, you know, I observed you doing such and such and such and such. That's not a good way of going about doing it. Right. And I do it that way, that tone or whatever. If you don't want to, if you take that as I'm being offensive or whatever, I'm not responsible for that. But if I came and said, oh, you just followed up, I'm responsible for how I deliver. I'm not responsible for how you receive. My mom said, I put up a wall because of what you said earlier. We know what you said is true and don't want to adjust. Yeah, but that's a reality that we got to deal with ourselves. And that's looking ourselves in the mirror. That's looking ourselves in the mirror and getting to what Demetrius said earlier, getting to that center line. And when you're in that center line, the center line really helps you focus on the reality of you. And that's a reality that accepting that reality that we can be functional and dysfunctional is really getting to the center line of accepting the reality that that's who we are. And you know what? Most of the time, and I said this before, most of the time, we don't need nobody to tell us who we like the areas where we know we got to improve on. We know what we do. We know what we don't do. We just believe the lie that we have convinced ourselves so much to justify the behavior to continue to go down that dysfunctional path. You know, I see this all the time, and I like a lot of people sacrifice their family for their personal ambition. And they know they do it. They sacrifice their family for their personal ambition, and they know they do it. But then come around and want to act like, what about this and what about that? Oh, well, I provided for you. No, you neglected the family on behalf of meeting your own selfish goals. And you put all your time and energy towards your job, but then you expect other people who supposed to got that time and energy from you, you expected them to accept the neglect on behalf of you, being selfish. I was talking to my mom. My mom was sharing to me, and we talk a lot about my dad. And I just like to just have conversations about her, you know, from a perspective of not him being my dad from a perspective of my dad as a husband and as a father, especially as I get older. You know, I value those perspectives because it helps me on my journey. And one thing my mom said is she remembered talking to my dad about she recognized some things that my dad just didn't know. And she was frustrated about some stuff, about some of his behaviors, but she had to realize that there's some things that he just didn't know. And she assumed that he should know that. But then she had conversations with him. And she said the thing that is, when she had conversations with him and they was able to talk about stuff, she saw the efforts put into his behavior to make a change. And that shows a lot about an individual, because a lot of people, they already know what they're doing wrong. Or if people bring it up to them what they're doing wrong, they just choose not to do it. And that just shows a sign of the people, the person, that individual, how they are as people. And some people, to be honest with you, and I'm going to say this, some people are very comfortable with being dysfunctional and will not put any effort into changing. My charge to you is, if you encounter them people, don't waste your time and energy with them, or don't connect yourself to those people, because they ain't gonna do nothing but draw you down, especially if that dysfunction is has a negative impact towards you. Has a negative impact towards you, or how you trying to do or live your life and do your thing. So I just wanted to just bring that up and talk about that, because that's a real reality that it is. And now talk about being functional and dysfunctional. I want to get back to that. Get to your center. Get to your center. First, you got to realize who you are, like really realize who you are. A lot of times we are dysfunctional and we can't get to the why behind it, because we have suppressed so much negativity that influence our behaviors, and we don't even know that those influences are driving our behavior or driving us down a path of dysfunction. Now, I'm about to get deep on this, and I said I was going to talk about it a little bit earlier, but you can't find peace, and you always moving because you are searching for love that you didn't get from a parent. You are searching for love that you didn't get as a child. You are searching for something to fill those gaps. And I talked about me and my reality, that I didn't get certain things from my dad that I felt that I should have gotten. So subconsciously, I sought those things through other places. Mine was through sexual promiscuity. That was my angle to try to fill that void. But a lot of us, we do a whole bunch of stuff, and we find out that a lot of this, and when I took inventory of myself, a lot of my decisions that I made, the consequences for those decisions, I had to deal with. But there was a result of me trying to fill a void, or me trying to use those things subconsciously to get myself to help me deal with stuff that I was going through. And that's why I say it wasn't until after I had I've given my life to Christ, and I really was able, I was like, God, why am I the way I am? And God broke that thing down to me and helped me get back to a center place. And I saw myself for where I was. And when I saw myself for where I was, I made a commitment to doing the work to address those things that were influencing the decisions that I was making. And he gave me understanding behind why certain things. And I said this before, and I made this in there. I talked about this last week, where some things people have done to us, they don't even know, like it wasn't intentional. It wasn't from a malice place. They did what they could to survive. And that's why I say, we carry the pain. We got to stop carrying that pain of the pains passed down to us from other people. And when we don't get to a place where we're centered to be able to face that dysfunctional parts of us, if we don't really be willing to sit down and get to the center and deal with the why, we'll find ourselves living, existing, but not living. And then we find ourselves not being able to have those real conversations. And it's so funny where when you're not, and this is a sign where you're not, where you have not come to a place where you are comfortable with dealing with you, is when your kids need to have those conversations, but you avoid it. when those family members need to have those conversations, but you don't want to talk about it. You just want to kind of push it down. No, they need to have those conversations because those conversations is going to help them. They're trying to get there. So Ms. Page said, how do I improve when I am feeling someone else is to blame for my dysfunction? Now, I will say this on this one, right? Like I said before, stop expecting others and to feel sorry for you before you decide to improve yourself. And Eric Thomas, Dr. Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher, said, and I said it before, your pain may not have been your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. You have to take ownership. That's the only way you're going to improve. You can blame everybody else, and guess what? That can be valid. There can be valid blame put to other people. But guess what? Ain't nothing going to come from it besides you just sitting there with your own pity party. That's why I love the fact that when I go back and I look at certain things, my mind be blown about just how powerful the Bible is when you go back and you look at it. But that bed that guy that was on, when Jesus told him to take up his bed and walk, they say he was lame for 38 years, but when he went to him, Jesus asked him, he said, will you be made whole? Do you want to be made whole? Dude was like, yes. He said, okay, take up your bed and walk. He ain't lay no hand. The Bible didn't say nothing about him laying hands on him putting him in the pool or whatever. He just had to take up his bed. And Miss Paige Banks, I do want to say that bed is symbolic of your blaming, your excuses. And like what Demetrius said here, he had to admitting was the first step. Do you want to be made whole? Yeah, I do. And that's saying, yeah, I do want to be made whole is admitting the fact that, hey, I acknowledge that I got issues. I got things I need to deal with. Okay. Give me those excuses. Take up that bed. Give me those excuses. Give me all those excuses you've been laying in. Give me all those excuses that you've been using. Give me all those reasons of why you didn't, valid or invalid. Give me all of those reasons and walk away with it. Eliminate those reasons. Eliminate them. Eliminate those excuses. Eliminate them. Eliminate them. And take ownership of it and move forward. I like to use this analogy. If I lost a house, I don't have a place to stay, and somebody stole all my money. I can go around the whole time, man, somebody stole my money. I ain't got no place to stay, blah, 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 blah. And some people may hear me out. Some people may hear me out. Some people may even help me. But guess what? I'll still just be out there homeless without a place to stay. And I'm gonna address something in a little bit too. I'm gonna address something in a little bit. I need to say it, and it may piss some people off, but you know, it is what it is. Ms. Paige Banks said that's the best answer I've ever got for that question. I get it now. To God be the glory. To God be the glory. I want to say this. Stop expecting people to compensate for your dysfunction. Say it again. Stop expecting people to compensate for your dysfunction. Because a lot of times we are dysfunctional and we making all these choices, but woe is me and all this, that, and the third, but you ain't working to change and make yourself better. Stop expecting your family member to send you money to help you out when you ain't doing nothing to change your spending habits. You understand what I'm saying? Stop expecting people to compensate for you. You grown. You've been grown. So why are you expecting people to compensate for you? Take ownership. You did. That's on you. That's on you, man. We got too many people that's comfortable with being dysfunctional, but have the expectation for somebody else to do something for them. We got to stop that, man. We have to stop that. That's dangerous. And we burn people out. We burn relationships out. You had that kid. That's your kid. That ain't your mama or your cousin, them kids. You got you wanted that car. There ain't nobody else responsibility for help you putting that. You wanted this thing. You wanted that thing. That's on you. Take responsibility. Stop expecting other people to compensate for your dysfunction. Change your behavior. Change those habits. Say that I need to deal with me. I got to stop eating out all the time and cook. Hey, my classmate said, he said, body age and mind age is different. Yes. But I just want to say that because I would tell you, it perpetual. It plagues our community as African American community. It plagues the African American community to where we love to put the blame of the cause of dysfunction on others and not be willing to take ownership and change the behaviors within. And I would say this, and we even talked about it, and sociologists call it when this is a whole nother thing, but sociologists they call it the culture of poverty. And it's defined basically as generations growing up in poverty, and that's all they see and that's all they aspire to be. There's a lot of variables and things that may have led to people being in certain conditions, but that mindset is something that we got to take ownership of, because the reality is the consequences of our choices is still ours that we got to deal with. So I just want to thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And I pray that we all can get to a place where we accept the reality that we can be functional and dysfunctional at the same time, but we have to get to a center place to where we're willing to address both of them equally so that we can put forth the appropriate effort, time, energy, and effort to address them so that we can become better and we can grow. Don't sit there and be in prison because of the frustration of realizing that you do have dysfunction, because dysfunction is not a sign of dysfunction is not an automatically sign that you yourself is something wrong with you. It's just a reality. It's just a reality that, of life. That's a reality of life. Miss Sandra McKinney said, I like this. Change your habits. Stop expecting people, family to bail you out of your mess. Good. Yes, that's yours. That's yours. And you know what, Sandra, one thing that I learned is when I made a mental commitment to take ownership of myself, more people was willing to help me, and I ain't even had to ask. So I would tell you, and that makes me, like, as a father now I get it. When I transitioned to fatherhood or manhood, and I had when my dad, our dynamics of our relationship changed. I had pride of being able to take care of myself and providing for my family. I've always made that a priority. And my mama can tell you, I never call home and be like, hey, mom, no, I'm sorry. I called home one time when I was in college. I had flunked out, and I asked my mama to send me $30. Y'all can tell how much gas price changed. Send me $30 so I can fill a car up with gas, get me something to eat, and come home. And I came home, and I would tell y'all 2 weeks later, I was at basic training. I was at basic training because I could not sit in the house and allow myself to be 20 years old and can't even buy a pack of Kool-Aid. And a pack of Kool-Aid was 10 cents and be comfortable with that. So I said, you know what? I got to do something. So I joined the military. That was me. But the whole time with me being outside of my house, outside of me calling my mom for $30, I've never called home and be like, hey, mom, can you help me out with this? Can you help me out with that? And that's just not a bragging thing. That's just me. That was me. That I felt that, I was responsible for myself. So what happened was by me having that mindset, I can remember I would come home. And when I come home, I was stationed at Fort Hood, First Duty Station, go to Alabama, go home for the weekend. And I'm getting ready to go. I'm good. I got my gas money. Daddy come up. He give me, hey, here's some gas money. Put some gas in your car. Because he, as a father, and me as a father now, if my kids, and I see that they taking ownership of what they doing and they decisions, they choices, man, hey, that made me want to, hey, what you need? I got you. And God do the same thing with us. When we start taking ownership of the things that happen to us, and we start taking ownership of those things that may not have happened to us, that may not have been good, God would then engage with us and give us everything that we need because we have taken ownership of it. We're not blaming other people. We're taking ownership of it. Yeah, God, I know this happened to me. I know my mom wasn't there for me. I know my dad wasn't there for me. I know I dealt with this issue. I know this happened to me. I know that happened to me. I know I was molested. I know I was raped. I know people used me. I know I was talked about. I know I didn't have the best. I know this. I know that. I know all of these things. But God, they happened to me. And guess what? I'm tired of them controlling me. I want to take control. I'm tired of them controlling me. I want to take control. I want to move forward. God, help me. And I promise you, God would then take those things and begin to lead you through the process. If you're willing to do the work, he would give you everything you need to give you an understanding to help break the chains in your mind. And once those chains are broken with your mind, that's why the Bible said, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's when God will give you everything that you need. And then you'll be able to walk and navigate this 4-letter word called life in a better way, instead of in a functional way, instead of a dysfunctional way. My class, Demetrius said, enjoyed you, bro. Hey, man, enjoyed you too. Thanks for chiming in, 9-8. Miss Paige Banks says she's so glad she tuned in. This really helped me this evening. Amen. To God be the glory. My mom said we can be functional and dysfunctional while eliminating the dysfunctional within us. Ooh, Lord, you just dropped a nugget, mama. She said we can be functional and dysfunctional while eliminating the dysfunctional in us, within us. Yes. Hey, thank you, Sandra. Great conversation as well. And I know you're saying you was agreeing with what I said earlier. And my mom said he gives us, and he was talking about God, give us what we need, not what we want. And mama, you just keep hitting it. I'm trying to get out of here. You know, you got me like a old Baptist preacher, but with that, he give us what we need, not what we want. A lot of times we are quick to go to what we want because we feel what we want would give us the fulfillment over what we need. And most of the time, what we need, a lot of times in life, what we need is not what we would choose, but it's necessary. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, and I pray you guys have a great and wonderful evening. Hey, some big things coming. Some big things are coming. Big things. I mean, big things. So I'm about to launch an apparel company. So I'm excited about that. So Divine Joy Apparels is coming soon. We'll have some tees, some t-shirts will be on sale. Got some designs going right now. So looking forward to setting that up, setting up a website, getting all of this stuff done. 2022 is good. One of my songs, Army theme songs, was just featured on my division's one of the videos for my division. So I'm excited about that. Be shooting directly another video for an Army theme song that's talking about suicide and mental health awareness. Just excited about a lot of things coming up. Eliminate those excuses. A lot of things I put on the back burner because I've been giving excuses that I'm putting the work in right now. And I'm making a commitment that if I die, I want to exhaust everything in me that God had placed in me. Compete against yourself. Compete against yourself. Once you compete against yourself, what that means is that focus you on your center. And once you focus on your center, you realize that you don't worry about what somebody else's abilities are, because you know that your ability, you see areas where you can improve on. You guys have, she said, Belinda said this, I'm going to get this coming. She said, sometimes he, as in God, give us what we want to show us it's not what we need. Hello. I'm telling you right now, God allowed me to get everything I wanted for me to realize it was not what I needed. And I'm grateful. I am grateful for that experience because they helped open my eyes. And what's going on, Brandy? She said, you're the only competition. You are the only competition. Compete against yourself. You guys have a great and wonderful day. God bless and good night.